Welcome to ET Now Startup Central, India's first and only daily show dedicated to startups and entrepreneurship. I'm Chandrasekaran, joining you live from India Startup Hub, Bangalore, and we have a power-packed show lined up for you over the next 20 minutes.
I'm Kumar coming to you live from ET Now's Mumbai studios. First up, a look at all that's making headlines in the world of startups. We get you an exclusive interview with NRI entrepreneur and ace venture capitalist Gururaj Deshpande on the startup landscape in India and his thoughts on impact investing. What key lessons did 2015 teach Zomato's founder Deepinder Goyal, and what can other startups learn from it? We get you that. What segments are investors looking at when it comes to investing, and how much are they willing to pump in? We get you the lowdown on our special segment, Deal Watch. On our another special segment that we kicked off today called Rising Star, we take a look at a startup that's been gaining traction in the car rental space, Zoom Car. We talk to its founder on the road ahead. India shines in Apple's latest quarterly earnings. Tim Cook mentions India multiple times in his conference call with analysts. We tell you why. Straight up, our top story of the day, where we caught up with renowned NRI billionaire, investor and serial entrepreneur Gururaj Deshpande. Deshpande, as he's popularly known, spoke to Chandra about what excites him in Indian startup space, his plans to expand social entrepreneurship, and where he will be investing going forward. Let's listen to that first.
We know that for the future of the economy of the world, we need 75 million entrepreneurs. And India needs its share, which is about 10 million. And so I think it's very timely that we really make it fashionable to be 10 million entrepreneurs. But entrepreneurs should not be, there's a little bit of this thing in India that entrepreneurship is essentially high-tech, e-commerce,
right,
IT, and we need to think a lot broader than that to really make India a prosperous country. So there is a lot more value to be added by using IT for other things. For example, I came from the telecom business. Once upon a time, there was a huge premium to be able to just move bits from one place to another place.
Right.
And so now we have the Google, the Facebook, the Twitter, all those things. And then you get all the new shared economy companies like Uber and Ola and all that kind of stuff. But I think if you look at the world of the 7 billion people, a lot of the growth that happened in the last 50 years is for the top 2 billion people. The next 50 years, I think it's going to come from the bottom 5 billion people.
And this is where your Sandbox initiative is also helping, right? The whole social entrepreneurship, expanding entrepreneurship to the smaller towns and cities and addressing very local issues.
Right. And those local issues should not be seen as local because they are global and they're good for 5 billion people. But those solutions are better crafted in the tier 2 cities because you always have to come up with solutions being closer to the customer.
As an investor, what segments excite you now in the Indian startup ecosystem? Where will you be putting your money next?
Well, I think I'm not sure I would qualify as a financial investor, but I invest a lot of money in India, but mostly through the foundation. And so my investment is mostly to see if we can have better development and better, more inclusive economy. So I'm actually, still a promoter of entrepreneurship, and I'm very, very excited about people coming up with their own solutions. But I'm also very interested in sort of making sure that these solutions are created by the people who need them.
As a seasoned entrepreneur, if there's any, cautionary tale that you want to flag off to startups and entrepreneurs here, what would you say?
Well, I think it's like these bubbles happen not because they're bad ideas, but because they're very good ideas. This happened again and again in the world. In fact, when the railroads happened in US, there was a bubble because railroads were such a powerful concept. So a lot of the high valuations that we have right now, because those companies are doing something that's very valuable. Now, is it justified? Is the valuation justified? I don't know. And some of them will probably not do right. But that concept of using technology, connectivity to make better use of the assets that we have in the world, the shared economy. All those concepts are very powerful.
That's certainly some very valuable insights coming in from a veteran entrepreneur and investor. But we don't just have veterans on the show, we also have a new age entrepreneur with some advice. Don't we, Krishna?
Absolutely. Restaurant discovery platform Zomato faced tough times last year thanks to all the pressure on growth and the layoffs it was forced to undertake. We have Zomato's co-founder Deshpande who had blogged about his biggest learnings from all the pain that he had to endure. And Rahul Dayama curated 5 mantras from his blog that every startup entrepreneur can use. Take a look. 2015 separated the men from the boys in the food tech space, and Zomato, valued at over $1 billion, was no exception. But what matters is that its co-founder took it on the chin and has now shared the key lessons that the churn held for him. Lessons that every startup can use in the scale-up stage. Scaling up has always been a challenge for startups. Deshpande suggests not to rapidly scale up the business as giving equal priority to new competitors becomes tough. Focusing on what matters helps. Guarding your turf while facing stiff competition can be quite a task. Goyal advises choosing battles as battling competition can be a very costly affair. This is probably the most important advice for startups. Goyal advises to ensure there is a steady flow of money and one look at maximizing revenue channels or creating new ones. Also, building a business for the long run and keeping burn rate in check will only help things. Goyal's performance mantra is to keep measuring the outcome of effort and money being pumped in. Also, one has to execute quickly till you land on the perfect recipe for success. Referring to layoffs at his company, something that created ripples in the ecosystem, Goyal says one shouldn't shy away from taking tough business decisions. Starting afresh if needed may just be the right way to set things right in the company. That's the candid and valuable advice coming in from one of India's unicorns. We hope it helps you as well.
Some candid thoughts there coming in from Zomato co-founder Deshpande Goyal. We certainly hope you found that useful. But from a unicorn to a special segment we've kicked off today called Rising Star, where we look at a startup that's making waves in a specific space. And the space we are talking about today is the car rental space. We have Zoom Cars Greg Moran joining us on the show today. Thanks so much, Greg, for joining us. I often see Zoom Cars on Bangalore's roads, but you're present in 11 cities now. What is 2016 looking like? Is the appetite still strong for Zoom Cars car rental offerings? Take us through your expansion plans in the new year.
So I think for us, it's something where over the next 12 to 18 months, we're going to be looking at moving into around 30 cities, 30 new cities. And when we look out in the tier 2 markets, some of the tier 3 markets represent really amazing opportunities for us because just like we see in Chandigarh, I think that's just the tip of the iceberg. And over and above that, I mean, we certainly, Mumbai, Bangalore, Delhi, these are very, very large cities. And these cities can tolerate and actually stand several thousands of cars each. So we're actually really kind of still at the early days of this journey. If you look at China, it has over, the number one player in China has over 1 lakh cars. And right now for us, just around 2,000 cars, it just shows we have a long way to go. And I think for us, we definitely aspire to hit that 1 lakh number as well. I mean, that'll take, of course, several years, but I think if we just consistently eat away at it, and this year add 10,000 plus cars, and subsequent year add some multiple of that, I think we'll get pretty close to that number.
All right, Greg, this is Krishna here from 18 Hours Mumbai Studios. I wanted to ask you, what kind of traction are you seeing, in terms of bookings and inquiries coming in? Are people increasingly moving towards the self-drive option?
Yeah, well, I think certainly I can give some numbers. Some numbers are a little bit tougher, but it's something where we find that on the weekends, for instance, we've actually been sold out really every single day, every single weekend since launching. And it's really remarkable that as we've continued to grow, continue to add cars into new cities, every single weekend we're turning away customers. And that's something that is definitely pretty rare in a lot of other industries. And it's something where, we're even during the weekdays, we're utilized well above 50%. So that's something which, again, is sort of paradigm breaking when you think about other industries, similar industries in other countries. So typically you're utilized 25-30% in these other economies where we're seeing utilization rates that are 2x that level, 2x plus. So that's what makes it, I think, pretty exciting. As we continue to grow, we've still seen very robust utilization.
Greg, with respect to the whole cab space, obviously you're not in the same area as an Uber or an Ola, but have there been any regulatory challenges that you would like to flag off, any pain points that you face which could turn out to be an issue going forward?
Yeah, I mean, so for us, honestly, it's been pretty modest. It's certainly, when you think about the self-drive market in general, it's actually pretty tough to get into it. There's a lot of impediments, a lot of barriers to entry, which is not too dissimilar, I suppose, from a couple of other industries here in India. But for us, you have to go and get 50 cars first. You have to purchase 50 cars, put them under your name, insure with your name, register under your name, and then only then can you actually obtain a rental permit, a self-drive permit, to be all India and to go into these other markets. And that was something that we obtained back in early 2014, and we've since actually obtained similar permits across really all of the states that we've operated in. And that's something which, again, very, very arduous and a very long-winded process. But we actually, the beauty is a lot of this new legislation, a lot of the new rules that are coming, even like if you look at Delhi, the odd even rule, or some of the rules that are being proposed in Karnataka, it actually doesn't really apply to Zoom car. This is really geared towards the radio taxi. I think one thing that we are looking out for, and we think will probably change, is when GST comes along, hopefully later this year, you'll see that a lot of states will dramatically reform their tax structures around the actual rental market and what it means to be a commercial vehicle. And that'll be pretty exciting because it'll streamline a lot of processes interstate. When you actually go from, say, Karnataka to Tamil Nadu, you actually will be paying a rationalized rate, which is something the same rate that you'll be paying in Telangana, in Maharashtra, etc. And that's great for the customer.
You obviously have some aggressive expansion plans there, Greg, but there has been buzz about a slowdown in later stages of funding in the B and the C stage. Is this something that you're facing as well, and how you're really going to go about funding as far as 2016 is concerned, the next few months are concerned?
Well, I'd say investors always ask tough questions, so that certainly hasn't changed. I guess maybe they ask tougher questions now, but no, it's something where I think it certainly helps to be a market leader and to be the first mover and to have a dominant market position. But that said, I mean, nothing is ever assured of any company, of course, right? So you have to keep executing, keep building in the right kind of way, and build sustainably. And yeah, for us, I mean, certainly we expect to take in some fresh capital later this year from some large international partners, and that's something which we're pretty excited about.
Greg Moran, CEO of Zoomcar, thank you so much for taking time out to be with us here on ET Now Startup Central. Moving on to funding for startups. Last week we got you an overall funding picture for the year gone by. Now it is time to break down the funding meter for the present year. We have Neha Singh of Traction joining us now for that. Neha, thank you so much for taking time out to be with us here on ET Now Startup Central. There is buzz of a slowdown as far as Series B and Series C funding is concerned. What can you share in terms of what you are seeing over here?
Right, exactly. So, so people have been talking a lot about the winter coming, but that actually has not translated so much in data. Like, we keep seeing the same number of queries from funds for the diligences that they are doing or for the sectors that they are looking at. What has perhaps happened is there is a little bit more correction in terms of the valuations that the startups are getting. The second thing which has happened is if you consider round, if a startup is raising, say, like a $50 million round, earlier the new investor would probably take more than more than 30 mil of that round. Right now, you see that part rationalizing. So you see the existing investors who are also keeping a lot of reserve for their portfolio companies. So you see a participation from the existing investors sort of increasing to as compared to the earlier levels in the new funding round. So now you can also have scenarios wherein you are having a 50 mil round wherein the earlier investors are putting in 25 and the new investors are putting in 25.
Neha, I want to check with you. You mentioned a correction in valuation. Any specific segment that you were referring to?
So I guess this is across the different sectors. What was happening is in a lot of sectors there were multiple companies getting funded and multiple companies were raising. Right now what is happening is that the funding is getting concentrated in a few startups. So you can see in the top, first, second or the third player across different sectors equally.
Neha, at the end of 2015, people drew up list of 4-5 unicorns of the future, the would-be unicorns of 2016. Do you still see chances of that happening?
So I think if you talk about unicorns, you're probably looking at someone who's looking to raise like 200 or $300 million check size. So typically Series C or Series D investors. So they are actually still active. They are looking for companies. In fact, they are now looking for better bargains. So some of the queries actually we get it, and this is not just true for India. We also work with funds in US, and we are getting similar queries from there. So interestingly, a lot of funds want to look at companies who have raised, say like a Series B or Series C, and have not raised a subsequent round in the last, say, 1 to 1.5 years, which are probably likely candidates of having good growth but being underpriced. So actually people are more out in the market looking for these kinds of deals and better, like bargains and high growth companies.
Neha Singh of Traction, thank you so much for really breaking that down for us. So yes, there is a slowdown, but if you're in the enterprise space, also in the fintech space, there's no reason to worry just yet. But moving on to the big international lead of the day, it has to be about the Apple earnings. Quite a quarterly shocker from Apple as it reported its slowest ever shipment of iPhones, which remember contributes to 70% of the company's sales. It looks like the Chinese jitters are getting to Apple as well, because the overall weakness in the Chinese economy is beginning to impact Apple. Now remember, Apple is China is Apple's biggest growing market, and they haven't really seen success in product categories beyond the iPhone. But even amidst this gloom and doom, if there is one spot that's shining bright for Apple, it's clearly India, because the appetite for iPhones here is just growing. In the latest quarter, over 8 lakh iPhones were purchased in India. Now, this is still a fraction of the overall segment, but I think at a time when China is slowing down, India is going to be the next big bet for Apple. Let's in fact listen in to Tim Cook talking about the India potential. He mentioned India at least 12 times in that conference call today. Let's listen in to him.
We remain very bullish on China, and don't subscribe to the doom and gloom kind of predictions, frankly. In India is also incredibly exciting. It's the third largest smartphone market in the world, behind China and the United States. The population in India is incredibly young. The median age there is 27. I think of the China age being young at 36, 37, and so 27 is unbelievable. Almost half the people in India are below 25. India revenue for us in Q1 was up 38%. We also had currency issues in India, as everybody else did. Constant currency growth was 48%, and so it's a very rapidly expanding country. And I think the government there is very interested in economic reforms and so forth, that I think all speak to a really good business environment for the future.
And with that, it's time now for a check on what's buzzing in the world of startups. Ratan Tata, one of India's most active angel investors, has invested an undisclosed amount in online tea platform Teabox. Now, Teabox is a company that exports tea to 93 countries, and it will use the funds to expand its global footprint. India's largest e-tailer, Flipkart, has decided to shut down its e-books app on the 17th of February. Users will now have to migrate to Kobo app, which is operated by Japanese e-commerce giant Rakuten Inc. Steady advances in the area of artificial intelligence. Mark Zuckerberg has shared a post describing the efforts being put into creating an AI to beat human players in ancient Chinese board game Go. Remember, Zuckerberg's fascination for AI doesn't end here. He had recently announced his plans to build a robot butler. All eyes on Alibaba's earnings tomorrow as Reuters has projected the slowest quarterly growth due to the weak Chinese economy and increasing competition. According to analysts, the revenue is expected to be the slowest in the last 3 years.
Thanks for that, Krishna. And we come to the final segment of ET Now Startup Central. The number we are crunching today has nothing to do with startups, but a veteran. And the number you're looking at is 43,700. What is that number? That is the number of followers on Twitter that actor Kamal Haasan has amassed as a few minutes back within the first 24 hours that he joined Twitter. If that number looks big for you, just remember his contemporary Rajnikant managed to notch over 2 lakh followers on Twitter in the first 24 hours. Krishna, that leaves me with a crucial question for you. Are you a Rajni or a Kamal fan?
I've been a Kamal Haasan fan since I was born, Chandra, so I'm very glad to see him on Twitter, and believe you me, that number will jump up. Kamal Haasan is a long-term player, so he will beat that 2 lakh number very soon, so all eyes on that. It's competition between Kamal Haasan and Rajnikant on the Twitterverse. Who would have thought that would happen? And with that, we wrap things up here on ET Now Startup Central.
Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/ETNow and don't forget to click the like button. You can also follow us on Twitter at ETNowLive. To stay updated with all our programming, hit the subscribe button on our YouTube channel by logging on to youtube.com/user/ETNow.